"You're not part of the close family," Claire's mom snapped after assigning me a seat behind the speaker. I just looked at her and said, "Then you're not getting a dime." I took back the $2,000 check and walked out, in front of everyone. My name's Jake. I'm 33, single, and honestly, my own family acts like I don't exist. You probably wouldn't guess it, since I helped pay off my parents' second home loan, covered my sister's last tuition fees, and even gave my brother Ethan $11,400 when his new company was struggling 2 years ago. He never paid me back, but I never made a fuss. I get by just fine. I work quietly in software and live in a decent apartment, nothing fancy. I've always been the dependable one, the guy who shows up, pays his share, and stays out of drama. I never asked for praise, but I didn't expect to be ignored either. When Ethan got engaged to Claire, the same woman who once called my job cute in a basic way, I stayed quiet. Not because I liked her, I didn't, but because Ethan seemed happy. I even tried being friendly, hoping she'd stop treating me like a waiter at her party. I bought a new suit, confirmed my invitation early, and offered to help with wedding prep. Nothing. No thank you, no, we've got it covered, just silence. I chalked it up to wedding stress. A week before the big day, I visited my parents with a $2,000 wedding gift check and a handwritten card. My mom barely glanced at it. "Claire's family is paying for most of the wedding," she said, waving toward a table full of RSVPs and decorations. "They're very involved and organized," she added like it was a warning. I should have known that meant, stay out of it. The rehearsal dinner happened the night before. I wasn't invited. When I asked Ethan about it, he said it was just for the main group and kept small. I laughed it off, but inside, it hurt. I told myself it was his day. Maybe I was overthinking it. On the wedding day, I showed up early in my best suit, even brought a camera to take some photos. I wanted to be supportive. The venue was beautiful, a lodge by the lake, sunlight sparkling on the water, white lights hanging between wooden beams. But the moment I walked in, I knew something was off. The usher hesitated when I told him my name. He flipped through the guest list twice before pointing me toward a far corner of the hall. "Table 18, I think," he said, avoiding eye contact. I walked over, expecting maybe a quiet spot for distant relatives. What I found was a cheap, wobbly chair pushed behind a big wooden post, mostly hidden from view. The seat wobbled as I sat. To my left was one of the DJ's giant speaker towers. It felt like they'd found the worst seat in the entire room and gave it to me on purpose. I stood and checked my place card. My name was spelled right. I looked around. My cousin Ryan and his fiancée were seated in the center of the hall. Ethan's college roommate, someone he barely talks to anymore, had a front row seat. Even Mr. Austin, Ethan's old science partner, was next to Claire's aunt like he was VIP. I approached the woman managing the seating. Headset on, clipboard in hand, she pointed without looking. "Back there," she said firmly. "I just wanted to ask if there's been a mistake." "I'm the groom's brother," I said. At that moment, Susan, Claire's mom, walked by and stopped to add her 2 cents. She looked at me like I was an inconvenience. "Oh," she said sweetly, "Claire decided that. You're not really part of the close family. The front rows are for close relatives only." I looked her in the eye. "I'm his brother." She shrugged with a fake smile. "But you're not part of the ceremony group, are you?" I said nothing and went back to my seat. My knees shook from shock and anger. I couldn't even see the front table from where I sat. When the music played and everyone stood to greet the bride, I had to lean around the post just to catch a glimpse. Nobody noticed me. Nobody cared. During the meal, no one joined me at the table. It looked like extra seating, with every other chair empty. I sat there for an hour, pretending to scroll on my phone, trying to stay calm. But I lost it when the speeches started. Ethan's best friend told a funny story from college. Amanda talked emotionally about how Claire dreamed of this wedding since she was a kid. Then Claire's dad, Robert, took the mic and said, "We feel lucky to have every person here tonight. Each guest was chosen because they matter so much to Claire and Ethan." That was it for me. I pulled out the note I'd written, slid the $2,000 check inside with a short message, "For your future." I walked to the front and grabbed the microphone without asking. "Hi, sorry to interrupt," I said with a small, forced smile. The room went silent. I just want to wish the couple all the best. Truly, I hope your marriage lasts longer than the respect I once had for you. Everyone froze. I grabbed the envelope from the gift table. A quiet gasp came from somewhere. Ethan went pale. Claire stared like I'd spoken a foreign language. Susan looked ready to jump at me. I gently put down the mic and walked out, past the music booth, the servers, the valet trying to hand me a parking ticket. I didn't stop until I reached the parking lot. That's when everything started to unravel. I didn't drive away right away. Instead, I stayed in my car, gripping the steering wheel and watching guests spill out like ants scattered from a kicked pile. I could see people peeking through the windows, whispering to each other like I'd pulled back the curtain and exposed everything as fake. Good. Let them whisper. Let them wonder why the groom's own brother came back to take his check and walked out in the middle of the celebration. My phone buzzed. First, it was Ethan, his name glowing on the screen. I didn't answer. Then the messages started pouring in. Ethan wrote, "What was that? You made me look bad in front of everyone. We need to talk now." Then Claire messaged, "That was rude. This day was supposed to be about me. You've always been bitter. Now it's obvious. You owe Ethan a real apology." I tossed my phone onto the seat like it was toxic. I wasn't ready to reply, not yet. That night, I stayed in a hotel. I didn't want to go home. I needed space. Sleep didn't come easy. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about how long I'd been treated like a background character in my own family. How many holidays I quietly helped behind the scenes while Ethan got all the attention. How every conversation with Claire felt like I was some awkward cleaner wandering through a fancy ballroom. The next day, I went back to my apartment to shower and change. That's when the group chat blew up. Apparently, word had gotten around. Some relatives messaged me privately. They said they weren't sure what happened but noticed how I'd been treated. Turns out, a few guests had tried to join me at my table but were told it was already taken. Taken for what? Public shame. Then my phone rang. It was my mom. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail in her strict "don't you dare cross me" tone. "Jake, I don't know what's wrong with you, but what you did ruined the whole celebration. Ethan and Claire are heartbroken. Call me back immediately." I didn't call her back right away. Instead, I wandered the city, bought a coffee, sat by the water, and tried to convince myself I wasn't imagining things. This wasn't just rudeness. It was deliberate. A clear message: you're not one of us. It hurt more than I thought it would. And the worst part? I kept thinking about the note I wrote in the card. It said, "Wishing you love that lifts both of you up, like real family should." Now it felt like the punchline to a bad joke. Later that day, I logged onto Facebook, something I hardly ever do, and saw the first batch of wedding photos pop up. Fancy shots, carefully posed. Claire flashing her usual perfect smile. Ethan grinning like he hadn't just watched his own brother walk out. But then the comments started. Small at first. "Where's Jake in the family picture?" Then, "Didn't Jake give a speech? I thought I saw him with the mic." Slowly, people began to notice. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The silence around my absence spoke louder than any post ever could. That same night, Ethan came to my door. I didn't answer right away. He knocked 3 times, then said, "Come on, man. Please." I opened the door just a crack. He looked tired, messy hair, wrinkled shirt, not the confident guy I'd seen yesterday, but my brother, smaller somehow. "Can we talk?" he asked. I let him in. He sat on the edge of the sofa, like he wasn't sure he belonged. I stayed standing. "I didn't realize they put you way in the back," he said. I stared. "You didn't see your own brother sitting alone behind a post?" He ran a hand down his face. I had a lot on my mind. Claire's parents handled the seating. Her mom wants control over every little thing. I didn't want to fight her. I raised an eyebrow. "So you didn't even try?" He hesitated. "I thought it wouldn't bother you. You always say you don't want attention." I let out a bitter laugh. Not wanting attention doesn't mean being shoved behind a speaker like I'm invisible. He winced. "Okay. You're right." Silence. Then, "Claire thinks you owe her an apology." I looked at him. He looked back slowly. I'm not saying I agree. I just want things to go back to how they were. I crossed my arms. How they were. You take, and I stay quiet. That's over. He paused. So, what now? That was the real question. What now after a lifetime as the backup, the quiet helper, the forgotten sibling who always showed up anyway? I didn't have an answer. But I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. Ethan seemed to know too. As he stood to leave, he asked, "You really took back the check?" I looked him in the eye. "Yeah, I did." His voice dropped. "She's really mad. Her mom too." I said, "Good. Maybe next time they'll think twice before treating someone like furniture." Then I shut the door. I didn't hear from Ethan for days. Honestly, I didn't expect to. The talk ended quietly, like we both knew we were standing on different sides of a broken bridge. Maybe I was just the first to stop pretending it was still whole. While Ethan kept his distance, Claire and her mom started a public cleanup. Small digs appeared on social media. Claire posted a polished wedding photo with a caption, "So thankful for those who truly support our relationship." Susan followed up, "You can't pick your relatives, but we were lucky to choose ours." Comments poured in, some supportive, some confused. A few tagged me, asking, "Where were you?" Or, "Did you leave early?" I said nothing. Instead, I decided to stop staying quiet. I wasn't interested in revenge. I wanted the truth. I wanted our family to understand what really happened. Because I've learned silence only protects those doing the harm. So I made a plan. I'd tell the story myself. And I knew how. 7 days later, I wrote a message in the big family group chat. The one nobody remembers birthdays in, but everyone shares passive-aggressive memes. I kept it simple. "Hi everyone, just clearing up the wedding stuff before more wrong stories spread." I was invited. I showed up early, dressed right, and brought a $2,000 gift. I was placed behind a pillar, sitting alone next to a giant speaker. When I politely asked if there was a mistake, Claire's mom told me I wasn't really part of their family side. So I left and took my gift back. I wanted to share this myself, instead of letting gossip do it. I also included a picture of my place card, table 18, slightly tilted on the fabric next to a massive speaker setup. I didn't add opinions or insult anyone. I just let the facts speak for themselves. The reaction came quickly. Within minutes, the chat exploded. Aunt Olivia replied, "Wait, I thought you weren't even invited." Uncle Hudson wrote, "That's horrible. You're his brother." My cousin Emily shared a screenshot showing the empty table. Then another cousin dropped a bombshell. She had overheard Claire at her bridal shower saying, "We just want to keep his side quiet." They're not really picture material. It felt like someone had thrown fire onto dry wood. People started commenting directly under Claire's social media posts. Her comment sections filled with messages like, "Is this about Jake? Why would you treat a family member like that?" Claire deleted 2 of her photos. Susan made her profile private. But the damage was already done. After that, a new message popped up in the group chat, this time from my mother, "Jake, that was very rude. Family matters shouldn't be shared in front of others." I looked at the message for a second, then replied, "Didn't seem to bother you when I was embarrassed in front of over 100 people." She didn't respond, but others did. Even some of Claire's relatives sent me private messages saying they were shocked and had no idea what had been done to me. One of her cousins, someone I'd only seen once, messaged me, "You were actually the only one who arrived early and helped us put out chairs. This is unbelievable." I didn't even remember doing that. I guess when you're always the one helping, you don't really notice anymore. But what came next was something I hadn't expected at all. It turned out that Robert, Claire's father, was a part owner in a company I'd been talking to about a freelance job. It wasn't anything big, just a side gig. But once he found out I was the brother who caused a scene, he told his assistant to pause all talks immediately. I only found out because the assistant sent me the message by accident. The email subject said, "Stop all dealings with Jake." The reason? Too much conflict. That was all. I wasn't shocked, just let down. Not because I lost the job, but because I realized they still wanted to punish me for setting boundaries. So I decided to cut the last connection. I still had the card. The check had already been canceled, but the message I'd written, the one I made back when I actually believed this wedding mattered, was still neatly kept in my drawer. I took a picture of it and then created a new message. I didn't send it privately. I shared it with everyone. This is what I originally gave my brother and his new wife before I was treated like an unwanted guest at my own family celebration. Before I was told I wasn't really one of them. Before I was called rude for walking away from a room where I clearly wasn't welcome. I've spent years putting other people first, paying their bills, showing up, staying quiet. But this time, I picked myself. If that makes me the bad guy in your love story, then I accept it. No names. No tags. But everyone understood who it was about. And that post got more reactions than anything I'd ever shared online. Dozens of people messaged me, some saying sorry, some sharing their own painful family experiences, and others just writing, "Thanks for standing up for yourself." That night, Ethan messaged me. He wrote just one sentence. "Are you really finished with us?" For the first time, I didn't wait. I replied, "No, Ethan. I'm just finished being invisible." I haven't spoken to him since. But Sarah told me that at the next family holiday, Easter lunch at our parents' place, things were tense. Claire didn't come. Susan stayed away. And Ethan looked like he hadn't slept in days. While they dealt with that, I used the $2,000 to plan a solo trip to Japan. I wandered through Kyoto, enjoyed sushi by myself, spent quiet time at a temple, and finally felt calm. Going to Japan was the smartest decision I ever made. I didn't travel just to escape my family. I went to remember who I was without them. No rude calls. No group chats full of birthday wishes for people who forgot mine. No guilt from people who only take and never give back. Just me, alone in Kyoto. I strolled down narrow streets lined with old wooden houses and moss-covered bamboo fences. I sipped green tea early in the morning and listened to temple bells ringing over stone paths. I walked through the red Fushimi Inari gates in complete silence, the rows of arches stretching like a backbone up the hill. And in that peaceful moment, between my breathing, my sweat, and the smell of pine trees, something inside me felt whole again. I wasn't angry anymore. I was simply done. While I was away, I got only one message from them, a group text from my mom with a blurry picture of my niece holding a colored egg, and the message, "We missed you." I didn't reply, not because I don't love my niece, I really do, but because I knew what my mom really meant. They missed the version of me who stayed quiet. The one who smiled even while sitting behind a speaker. The one who gave money without asking for anything in return. The person they didn't have to think about, because they believed I'd never stop helping. But that version of me didn't come back from Japan. When I returned home, my apartment felt like it actually belonged to me. I started changing the space, not out of boredom, but with purpose. I threw out the old couch my parents had given me when I moved out. "It's still fine for someone like you," my dad had said. I replaced it with a deep blue velvet couch. Dramatic? Maybe. Pointless? Maybe. But it was mine. Work picked up. I said yes to some new projects. I reconnected with friends I hadn't seen in years. When you stop trying to please people who don't really see you, you suddenly realize how many doors were waiting for you to walk through. But peace doesn't stay quiet forever. It started with my mother. One Saturday morning, she showed up unannounced. I heard a knock, looked through the peephole, and there she was, standing with a plastic container full of lemon bars, like she was acting out a scene from some sitcom. I didn't open the door. She knocked once more and softly called out, "Jake, are you inside?" I stayed quiet. She waited quietly for another minute, then placed the lemon bars on the doormat and walked away. I tossed them straight into the trash. A week later, I got an envelope. Not a text, not a message online, but a real letter, written in my father's sharp, precise handwriting. "Son, your mother is very unhappy. We believe this conflict has gone on too long. You've made your feelings clear. Let's move forward. Ethan and Claire are trying to move past all this, and we believe you should as well. Every family has problems. Let's meet for dinner next Sunday and talk things over. You're still our child, and we continue to care for you." That letter was supposed to move me. It didn't. Because here's what it never said: "I'm sorry." Not once. No mention of what they allowed. No taking responsibility for ignoring what I went through, for letting me be treated like a guest among my own family and deciding it wasn't their problem. Just soft guilt hidden inside, "Let's move forward," so they could avoid the hard truth. So I replied with a letter of my own. "Dear Mom and Dad, I appreciate that you say you care about me, but love without respect is just control. You taught me that family matters. But somewhere along the way, That idea turned into keeping people close no matter how badly they behave. I don't agree. I was always there. I helped all of you for years, quietly, steadily, and because I never asked for anything, you thought I never needed anything. But the moment I finally set a boundary, you acted like I caused a disaster. You don't miss me. You miss the version of me who stayed silent. That version is gone. I won't attend dinner. I'm not willing to pretend everything's fine just because it's easier. If a real conversation ever happens, one with honesty and true accountability, I'm open to being part of it. Until then, please don't come to my home expecting the past to answer the door. Jake. I mailed it. No big speech. No public posts. Just a calm statement of facts, sent in the same kind of envelope my dad used. I have no idea how they reacted. I don't know if they cried, got angry, or tore it up. What I do know is, they never sent anything back. That silence was the loudest apology they ever gave. About Ethan and Claire, I heard things weren't going great. Sarah said Claire had been pushing Ethan to cut off the toxic people, which, in Claire's words, means anyone who doesn't worship her. Ethan refused. He's stubborn, but he's not clueless. Maybe now he sees who she really is. The last time I saw Ethan was by chance, late morning at a quiet coffee shop. We were both alone. Our eyes met. He gave me a small nod. I nodded back. That was it. No conversation. Just two brothers, both changed, both pretending the tension between us didn't exist. But honestly, I was okay with that. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing his approval. I'd already given that approval to myself. Maybe it sounds small, but when you grow up being told you're just an extra in someone else's story, realizing you're the lead in your own life is the biggest twist of all. I'm not holding a grudge. I'm rebuilding something new. Something that doesn't ask me to give up my self-worth just to feel included. And if one day my family comes back, not with snacks or empty words, but with sincerity, regret, and real growth, I'll be ready to listen. But until that day, I'll be right here, on my blue velvet couch, in my apartment that finally feels like peace.